did this offseason. Now, moving on to the final story of the day. Of course, these are all still rumors, but the rumors are starting to heat up that the Toronto Raptors could be favorites to land Kawhi Leonard at this point. Now, for Kawhi, he really wants to leave San Antonio. I think that is clear. Even though he hasn't came out and said it himself, I think he really wants to be done. I think the Spurs are realizing that they have to move Kawhi Leonard at some point, but I think it's sooner rather than later. The Lakers, they're not trying to trade a lot, and rightfully so. They believe they have the leverage, and they believe that Kawhi Leonard, if he stays in San Antonio or if he goes to another team, he's more than likely willing to come to LA because he's still giving up $200+ million that he could be signing right now for the San Antonio Spurs. So I think that's definitely a possibility. You also look at the Boston Celtics. They're unwilling to move their players. That adds leverage for the Lakers. You also look at the Philadelphia 76ers. They're unwilling to add in any of their young guys. More importantly, Markelle Fultz. That adds more leverage. The Toronto Raptors in the Eastern Conference, it checks that box for San Antonio because they want to trade him to the East, and they want to make sure they don't have to play him 4 times a season. And going east to the Toronto Raptors, it could make sense for the Spurs. Now, this is why I don't believe it should happen for the Toronto Raptors. That deal will more than likely involve DeMar DeRozan. That's what we're hearing. DeMar DeRozan could be potentially moved for Kawhi Leonard. A lot of people are now going to be speculating this morning because DeMar DeRozan deleted everything on Instagram, especially that had to do with the Toronto Raptors. So maybe that could be a move that is indicating that he could be leaving Toronto. I don't think so. I think people, once again, are still looking too much into meanings on things from social media, but that's something that people are probably going to run with today. But here's why I don't think the Toronto Raptors should trade DeMar DeRozan. Now, you move DeMar, you bring in Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard is not promising that he will stay in Toronto. So he's a rental with a possibility of re-signing. But for Toronto, their main issue is a lot of people simply don't line up to go play with the Toronto Raptors, which means free agents don't always try to sign. So the star players that you have, you need to make sure you keep them in Toronto. You don't really see a lot of star players, like I said, lining up, I want to go to Toronto, like you do in LA. How many players could potentially go to LA? How many times is LA rumored to be trying to land a top free agent? Even if they don't get it, they typically get a meeting. They typically, are acknowledged as a force in free agency as long as they have money. The Toronto Raptors, not so much. They're always a okay team when they already have that star and that foundation there. But a lot of those star players end up leaving Toronto. You don't really see a lot of lifers staying in Toronto. So if you have DeMar DeRozan, you have to try to hold on to DeMar DeRozan. I think if you make a move, you get rid of him for Kawhi Leonard. I think Kawhi Leonard will be there for a year. He does not make you better than Golden State. I don't think he makes you better than Boston. So you're not winning a championship. He's only here for a season. You get rid of another franchise cornerstone player. I don't see that making sense. Now, can you try to get Kawhi Leonard without trading DeMar DeRozan? I don't think so. Who else is going to be of interest to the San Antonio Spurs? I don't really think anybody. So people are running away with this rumor a little bit. I don't see any meaningful reason that it should happen. I think Toronto needs to focus on the stars. Certain teams, certain markets, they're just ran differently. I'm sorry. Like the Lakers, they're always going to be trying to get the big name players. The Lakers truly, if you look back to the history, they don't really groom players that you don't expect to be stars. Typically, they go out and they get the best players out there, or they just get lucky and get a top draft pick. But typically, they make those trades. Even for a Shaq, even for a Kobe, who was traded from the Charlotte Hornets, a lot of the times they still go out and get those guys. The Pau Gasols out there. It's rare that the Andrew Byno's really are drafted and then groomed by the Lakers. That's their system. It works. A lot of people want to go out west. A lot of people want to go to LA, one of the best cities in the country. So that's how it works for them. For Toronto, how many big name players in their prime decided to sign with Toronto when they're a free agent? It just doesn't happen. So for Toronto, the way you build is through the draft, maybe through some trades, but you get players and you essentially kind of trap them in Toronto. That's your best way of winning. You have a solid roster. I don't think coaching was the problem. I don't think anything like that. I don't think Casey should have ever been fired. But for Toronto, you have a solid roster who will make the playoffs, who will be a top seed in the Eastern Conference. LeBron James is now gone. So now you're hoping maybe you could get over the Boston Celtics. You're hoping maybe you could get over the Philadelphia 76ers. And maybe you could try to make a finals, which you'll ultimately lose, but maybe then you can make the finals and then try to change that into something else. But I think that's the best route for the Toronto Raptors. I think that's the route they should go in under any circumstances. Do I really see them trading DeMarcus Cousins? DeMar DeRozan, excuse me. I don't think it should happen at all. And these rumors, I think they're really just rumors. I don't think Toronto will kind of be dumb enough to trade DeMar DeRozan for Kawhi Leonard. But that is my show for today. That is everything that I have. As always, let me know in the comment section below how you guys feel about any of these topics. Do you think the Raptors should trade DeMar DeRozan at any point for Kawhi Leonard? Even if it is for Kawhi, I don't think so. Let me know for Brooklyn. Do you like what they're doing? I love Brooklyn's move so far. I really do. Position themselves for the summer of 2019. I think they could be players. I think for the Denver Nuggets, they made a solid move as well. Isaiah Thomas, hopefully he's motivated. That could be a great move. The Atlanta Hawks, they get some insurance with Jeremy Lin as well. Then the Miami Heat, still a playoff team, able to bring in Wayne Ellington over the luxury tax. What will happen?